Hollywood Unlocked Uncensored.
What up, everybody? This is Jason Lee, and this is Hollywood Unlocked Uncensored.
And what up? It's your girl, April Jones, and I'm in the building.
Yo, it's DJ Damage. Let's get this show started.
We have a real legend in the building.
Yes, we do.
Somebody who says she followed me. She's scared of me. Yo-Yo.
West Coast?
Well, not really scared of you.
Yeah.
I love your post, but you know.
I'm a little bit much.
No. I've been loving all the stuff you've been posting lately, empowering and all that good stuff.
Yo-Yo, Compton, California.
Yes.
There's no fear in your blood anywhere.
Well, 30 years in hip hop, there's no fear.
Oh, I know when you can't. So we have a mutual friend.
Who's that?
Queen Latifah.
Oh, shut
Dana.
up.
I talked to Dana the other day.
Aw.
I didn't know that you were coming on the show. I would have said, Yo-Yo's coming on. I would try to see if, she could give me something to talk about. Some I don't know.
That I love her so much.
But you guys love each other. I mean,
We've been, yes.
So you've been in the game for 30 years. When you look back over hip hop,
I'm celebrating. I'm getting close to 30 years. We're almost at the peak. I'm going to have the biggest party ever for 30 years.
Can we come?
I'm going to, yes. Come to Jamaica, baby. Come.
I'll come to Jamaica.
Come now.
Look.
Wait, so 30 years, how do you still look so young? Like you look exactly the same.
You know what it is? It's working with the youth.
They keep you young.
The youth have
energy.
kept me youthful. Yeah.
That's why I date mid-20s.
That's why I'm never dating older than 30 again.
Really?
Well, 35, maybe 42. All right.
pushed that
Well, because 35 is like 28.
It is.
Well, and
maybe 40.
Yeah, maybe 40. Maybe then you get a 35,
39.
6. Yeah, 39.
Well, and I'm getting ready to be 42, so I mean, 42 can be good.
You 30.
42 in dog years, that's about
30.
30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, don't put us in dog years. Wait a minute.
I mean, I'm just, that's a
That's
a metaphor.
Yeah, that's it.
Yo-Yo,
is hip-hop.
that's okay. Most men are dogs. It's dog years.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway.
I'm
never
28 and I do
classifies
feel
himself
35 though.
So
I like that.
So I remember
28? Oh, God.
I remember when you, Dana, and MC Light, did the remix to Brandy's Best Friend.
Yes.
That was the most, I felt it was probably one of the most amazing collaborations that I had remembered from that era. Was that yours?
Guess what? It was the first
Was it the first?
that we had ever done. MC Light and I were label mates, and Brandy was Warner as well. Yeah, we were all in the same era. Brandy and I, both from Carson, California.
Hey.
Yep, see our son. And although we had, there was only one girl to a clique, so we never could really get together the way we wanted to, because it was almost like, we were pinned against each other. Mm-hmm. And so when they came with us, when Keith Crouch gave me a call and said, hey, listen, I have this song I'm doing with Brandy, and I want you to be a part of it. I mean, and that was also the first time R&B and hip hop had really started collabing.
Yeah.
So it was really big because, hip hop had this big old brand of just being, especially from the West Coast, gangster hip hop. And to be associated with it from the East Coast when there was that beef where, East Coast wasn't really accepting the West Coast, NWA couldn't go across the
I remember
water.
that.
Yeah, so it was a lot at that time happening. So for all of that to happen, for girls to be pinned against each other, for the East and West to be beefing, and for R&B to be mixing,
It was a lot going on.
Humongous.
Yeah. Do you think it got the recognition for how big it was for music and hip hop?
No, because I'm still waiting on that royalty check.
Who has to cut the check, Warner or Brandy?
They still can't get it together.
Really? Yeah, but you guys came back together and you recreated that moment at the BET Hip Hop Awards, right?
I love it. It's always magic. One thing I can say about Queen is she is who she is, and where she is where she's supposed to be, because she has that magic. She's brought us together for another T-Mobile event she had, her birthday celebration. She always brings us together.
Oh, y'all celebrated her birthday this year?
No, we did that, 3 years ago?
Okay. Because I was definitely about to text her because I didn't get an invite this year.
I know, huh? Did I celebrate? I'm always celebrating her birthday.
But what's so crazy is
I called her for her birthday this year.
she's amazing. So when you say you were pinned against each other, was it the industry pinning you all against each other, or was it just the culture of where music and the world was at that time?
It wasn't the industry, and that's so crazy. It's so crazy. I don't ever think it was the industry, but smoke and mirrors it was. Mm-hmm. The industry. because it was so male dominated, and they were only taking men's advice and whatever the man said, and so it was so much like that we felt like Yo-Yo was from Ice Cube's camp. Queen Latifah was her her own camp, and she
Naughty
by Nature.
Naughty by Nature,
although she was the queen of the camp,
she was from Jersey.
She was Jersey, and same thing. It was just different. So I don't think we were pinned against each other. I think it was just the industry.
But were you all
that made us feel as if we were competitive, even though we weren't.
Yeah.
Because even when we tried to get together, I remember asking Sylvia Rohn, could we link? Can we do a song together? Light and I were on the same label. Can we do something together? So we had to really work hard, seeming like we had to work hard to get us even together.
A lot of people from, I call your era the golden age of hip hop, say so many things have changed over the years. If you look at today's landscape of the game, but just hearing this story, it sounds like a lot of things are still the same. In your perspective, because you're still in the game, you do radio, what are some of those things that still are the same, that haven't changed?
What hasn't changed? I thought you was gonna say what's changed.
Everybody talks
money.
about what's changed.
All the girl really need is money.
But talk about that. Why do you think that there's more opportunity with the money now in hip hop?
Well, because we did it just for the art. We did it just for the love.
Right.
When we first got in it, we had been doing this, and we had made our path for ourselves. Los Angeles knew me before Ice Cube knew me. And Ice Cube had to get to know me because I had already paved the way. I wasn't studio produced. I didn't understand how successful or financially beneficial this was going to be for someone, or I didn't understand the brand.
You didn't understand the business of it all.
No one understood it. It was so raw and so real that you really just had to produce yourself.
Right.
And so that was when it was really real, because it was the culture of hip hop. I think now there's so many manufactured artists that are coming out,
God.
and no disrespect to them, because sometimes you don't know which direction to go in, and you need someone to produce you. You need someone to help you and guide you. And a lot of people say, "Hey, I never had direction. Right. I wish I had direction so I could have been more or better than I am now." So it's okay to manufacture. You see somebody that's got some skills and they're artists, and an artist is an all-around artist. So now that's why you see Ice Cube doing movies. You see other people doing
Right.
Queen
An
Latifah.
artist is an artist. So, I don't know.
boundaries.
A lot of judgmental.
Right. A lot of people are using, social media and as platforms to kind of brand themselves.
Yeah.
So how did, back then, you guys, it wasn't prevalent like that.
They would tell us
how
we had
did
a
you-
photo shoot.
Right. So how did you become so known in your community? How did you do it?
Oh God, I did it the organic way. Before, I'm a major baby, first of all, and I didn't know anything. When I didn't even know the culture. I didn't even know who was playing our music, what demographic was listening to it. I remember journalists saying, is hip hop here to stay? And do you feel do you feel like they're degrading you when they call women bitches? And I was from South Central Los Angeles. I'm like, they're not talking to me. They calling her a bitch. That's the bitch.
And gangster rap, when you came out, was something from a female that we had never heard. And then Lil' Kim, when she came out with the over sexualized lyrics, was something we had never heard. I feel like all of you were really transitioning music from the grassroots.
And I didn't even like them to call it gangster rap when they called it gangster rap, because when we got in the studio, and what changed hip hop in the minds of an artist is when artists start saying they were artists and that they could visualize and create images and make things happen. Remember Boss? Remember Boss came out and said that she went to a certain kind of school and she was a Christian, a rap, or whatever, and they degraded her. She lost some points behind that because they felt like, oh, you weren't really representing. That really started changing the game because people started feeling like they had to live instead of telling a story as an artist could, would, So
you were discovered by Ice Cube, or actually brought to the world by Ice Cube. But then you also dated Tupac.
How was that?
That's my son.
But then you guys dated, right?
For all the ladies.
Yeah, and he's still my son. I ran him. I beat him in every battle. Every time we got around someone, he wanted to challenge me, and then at night he'd kiss me softly.
So I have a
I
friend.
live.
I have a friend who used to be sexually involved with Tupac. She actually has a letter he wrote her that she has framed at her house. They're trying to buy it from her, but she
Is
won't.
that mine?
No, it's not. He wrote you one too.
What?
Oh, so he-
Swear.
No,
he
swear
was
to
just
God.
a love letter writer.
He was a love letter writer.
The kissing bandit.
But
Her
she
Jada got a letter too.
she told me who?
well, yeah, we all.
Yeah.
Well, he loved Jada, is and Jada and I are really good friends, and we spoke about Tupac a long time ago, and he told me about them being best friends. Yeah, so
Were you in love with him?
yes, and I loved him so much that he became like a brother to me. He got on my nerves so bad because when we started, he used to tell me the stories of how he traveled and all of the things that he went through in his past with his parents. He was just a starving artist when I met him, hanging around the studio and at Street Knowledge down off Crenshaw, and we started touring together. He was just a dancer, for Humpty, and we really hung out. I mean, and we talked. I mean, I knew all of his raps. He would come and he would always say like, "You need to write a rap like this. You need to say I'm a rap with my best friend's man." I said, "I can't write a rap. I would never be in love with my best friend's man."
Yeah.
But we would always go everywhere we'd go. We'd battle. I loved him. I remember the first interview he ever did, and I read it because I knew him as. His mom was a part of the Panthers, and I knew his whole family. He brought me to New York to mentor his sister, and a bunch of stuff happened. When I read his first interview, I was disappointed because I read what I thought wasn't him.
Right.
Because
No, I
I thought he
understand.
was a soldier and all this other good stuff. But I loved him so much. We became friends. I
Wait,
remember.
wait. So when you read that interview, what was your perception of what you were
Oh,
reading?
he was just a lot of niggas. Everything was just nigga. And before it was just more of the Black Power,
Positive.
Black movement. It was just more of
Community
it
and-
was more of Nefertiti, Queen, blah blah blah. And then the interview was something totally different. And I was just like, why do you have to say nigga so much? And and that was the language that we use in the streets. But it was just him. I felt like he was the first Black rapper that I had met from the West Coast, even though he had, come from other places, to have had a soldier mentality, was lyrically dope, who lived and breathed it, but could kill you in rhyme. To get on that stage and watch Tupac, I see Ja Rule perform. He reminds me of him a little bit, but to see Tupac on stage was explosive. And I fell in love actually with the artist.
You know what's so crazy as you describe it, I could actually feel the energy from you. And when other people talk about some of the artists today, and I blame it on the digital download, I blame it on social media. Anybody can be a star. You just turn it on your internet and all of a sudden you're a star. But back in the day, I remember when the whole East-West Coast beef happened, and I remember being at. I've never had the privilege of seeing Tupac, but I did get to see Big, and I remember being there, 30,000 people, and just the energy was. It was something that I've never seen again.
Yeah.
And when I lived through the era of both of those people being killed, and you did as well, and you were in the industry. What impact did the death of Tupac have on you?
I thought Tupac was gonna live forever. It really devastated me. I remember getting a call and flying to Vegas, looking at everybody in the hospital and them telling us, you only have a certain amount of time to see him. Then we're going to close off visiting. And Kadada and I went in together. And at that time, he was dating Kadada. And Kadada and I went in together. And, it's my first time seeing him. And I'm just looking up under the covers. I'm just checking him out. And I first of all, I just started praying. I was just like, God bless him. But, and I was telling him, I was like, everybody's calling up here for you. People are, they saying you're going to make it, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him and, I was like, so a guy came out the door and said, you guys have to leave now, and. Was
he awake or he was in a coma?
Listen, I didn't know that. I asked him if he knew who shot him, who did whatever else. He was like, and then which I didn't understand, and that always plays in my mind to this day. Also, I remember a guy coming out the room and saying, you guys, it's time for us to go. And I remember Tupac looking me in my eyes, like as if you were looking at me. He said, And I said, he don't want us to go. I guess he wanted me to keep asking him questions and talking to him. The guy let us stay a little bit longer. We left. because I had that communication with him, when I left and flew back to Los Angeles, in my spirit, I just knew that Pac had 9 lives. He had already been shot before. He was a guy that went to jail and always got out. I mean, he found a way. When I talked to him from prison, he just had this, I know what I'm doing attitude, kind of person. So I literally, when I went home, I swear, I thought he was going to survive. I thought that this would be a lesson that he would really learn from, but I thought he would survive. And when I got the call that he had died, I never forget, I was on my way to my lawyer's house in Beverly Hills on Century City Parkway East or something, and I had to pull over, and I'm like, what? Because I just never thought he would die.
I had never met Tupac, but I had been shot at 15. I had seen my brother get murdered at 19. And I know for me how devastating it was to see my brother die. Not knowing Tupac, it felt like my brother had died. Right. It felt like, and I didn't have the privilege of knowing him. This is somebody I remember really wanting to go and see him. And my other brother was going to take me to go see him in Oakland, and the concert got canceled on the way. And I never got to see him. But I just, whenever a death like that has so much impact on people, you could literally, you pulled over. I'm sure there were a lot of people pulled over. My sister was crying. Our whole community was sad. I felt like the whole world had grieved. And we didn't have social media at the time, so we weren't connected on social media. But you can go in your neighborhood. You can go anywhere, and you could feel the impact that death had. And then, just recently, we just had the passing of Nipsey Hussle.
This feels so similar.
You know Nipsey, or you know Nipsey.
Yes, I do.
What was your relationship like with Nip?
Well, I remember him as just a young man selling his CDs in the community in Ralph's parking lot. I grew to know him. My school of hip hop was right off of Slauson. And I would see him, and I invited him to come down to the School of Hip Hop. We went and supported his store everywhere. He was just one of those people who just always showed up. I would see him at the store in his Bentley with his top back and his daughter in the passenger seat, and he'd hop out and go in and get what he needed and come on back. A free spirit, a man who, in my eyes, turned his life around for the better of his community. He does the work that I do. And there's not a lot of hip hop artists that you see on the West Coast that does the work that we do. And people, I was doing an interview yesterday, and the lady said, have you ever felt afraid? And I said, I never really felt afraid, because when you work for your city.
You mean in the work and going back into your community?
Yeah.
When you work for your city, hip hop, in the beginning, I used to watch. I used to drive around the block a couple of times. Right. I felt like I needed security. But once you start working in your community, there's a certain kind of freedom. You kind of feel like you have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. Well, you feel like you've surrendered to God, or like you have this kind of relationship with the community to say, hey, listen, I'm not against you. I might have made some mistakes in my life, but I'm not against you. And there's this. I feel it. Mm-hmm. I can go places by myself. Going to the site when we went to.
But the idea that because we were there for the opening of his store on Crenshaw and Slauson. Yeah. He was so proud of how he merged technology and fashion, how he had bought property in the community where he came from. And one of the last things he said in the video was, I'm excited to see where all this goes. And so where it all went was him dying at that same place. And by somebody that they say allegedly is from his hood. So
has a picture. Did you see the picture of them together?
Yeah, this is the craziest. This is the craziest part.
The picture of him is on Nipsey's page. Did you see the picture?
Oh no, with them two together.
With them two together. Him. Did you not see the picture?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Did you not see the picture? And let me just show you the picture. I just got this today. This is on Nipsey's page. Check it. That's on Nipsey's page.
Yeah, they knew.
But like you said, when
you see the guy circle.
But isn't that the craziest thing? And that goes back to where a lot of people get criticized of when you make it out the hood, it's your responsibility to go back to the hood. But then when you go back to the hood, the people in the hood that you are around take you out.
It's discouraging sometimes. It's scary because you want to go back and build the community. That's what they tell you you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to leave home. He's sitting there building businesses, creating opportunities for the youth, for the future. And then that happens.
That's the Malcolm X in us. That's the Martin Luther King in us. That's the Sister Soldier in us. That's the the Panther,
And that was the
is
Tupac in us.
That's the Tupac in us. That is what we are supposed to do. And fearless that's why I call myself fearless, because we are doing what we're supposed to do. The people in our community consider us heroes. Even though we don't want to say that we are role models, we are, because Marvin Gaye was a role model. James Brown was a role model. Muhammad Ali. Every successful black person who has made it out of the black community is considered a role model. Mm-hmm. And you kind of have to own that at some point in your life when you are transitioning. In order to get to the next level, there is a compromise that has to take place. And that compromise is God is not going to give you the key to rule over the kingdom unless you can rule over all the people. And so somewhere in your body, you have to find a settlement that you understand. You have to find a comfortability to settle.
Mm-hmm.
So Charlamagne and I were trying to process the death of Nipsey Hussle. Mm. And because it's really hard to wrap our minds around who's responsible. Is it the community?
No.
That's the question I asked. So who is responsible?
It's just when you come from the inner city, man, sometimes it's like a fuck you to people when you make it. There's some people that look at your success and when you do something positive as like you're attacking me. For some people take this success that Nipsey Hussle had, and not just success of just being a rapper and performing and wearing jewelry, what he's doing with the community. When everybody's on your side, there's always gonna be that one person like, well, I'm not on his side. Well, I don't like what he's doing.
But I get that.
And if you've been in a gang before, and you're a gang, and you have gang ties, and I don't mean this in no disrespect, but you have to have some security. I mean, right there in the hood, there's just certain places I still don't go. I'm not stopping at certain gas stations. I don't care how successful I am and how much I work in the community. There's just certain places you're not going to go. And if I do, I feel like, and if I had these prior ties, then I'm going to need somebody with me at all times, like the people for this Jewish community who had them people. Mm-hmm. I really do feel like, it's time for them to set up shop. You're going to need some people, so some security, some armed men that, if they come for me, you're gonna get it back. You're gonna get it back. So, to run away.
It's sick because it's the same gang.
Right. What changes do you feel y'all need to be made to end gun violence in the black community?
Education.
Education really is the pathway to freedom.
Everything Nipsey was doing.
And gang violence too.
Everything he was standing for.
But I'm just saying, in our community, there's so much. Look how many kids. The literacy problem that we're having. We're talking about this new election and all this stuff going on. What needs to change in our community? You can give them money, you could give them a job, but if they aren't educated enough, if you're not educating this new generation and they are not able to sustain for themselves, then you are only creating the generational curse that has already been placed upon our community.
And I remember back in the day when there was this whole thing about whether taking free lunch out of school. If kids don't have access to good education, nutrition, most kids that come from impoverished communities may not have a lunchbox or food to put in a lunchbox.
True.
And if they don't have nutrition and they don't have the access to the same education that other races, other people may have, and on every corner in their community is a liquor store or a Walmart putting out small businesses, of course you're going to have experiences where people are literally living as animals.
And you have to go out of your community. You have to go out of your community to get an education, to come back. Yep. Now you looked at as different.
Right. So when you look at Nipsey's death, you were just at the vigil, the memorial the other night. I was in New York and I was looking on Instagram and it looked like the entire city of Los Angeles had come out to support this very special moment. What was the experience? What did it feel like? And what did you see?
Well, first of all, just the love period. Everyone was out there just to show their love and support. I always felt the tension because I knew it had to be more than just the Dr. Sebi conspiracy. People said, he did this interview, he was doing this documentary about Dr. Sebi and they, the conspiracy that they think Dr. Sebi died. Someone
being
killed
a holistic
him.
doctor.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Holistic doctor. Yeah.
Right. And so, I felt in my spirit, I said, someone, he must have told them no. Maybe they asked for some money and, he turned them down. Maybe he embarrassed him or
That's
something.
exactly what happened.
And came back, and murked him.
Yeah.
He told the guy that he shouldn't be around here.
Because he was a snitch.
Allegedly,
Wow.
he was an informant. So he's like, you shouldn't be around here. And the guy came back
His friend
Yeah.
in front of his kids.
in front of his store, which I consider to be his home. It's sick. I wasn't. I was like 5 or 6 years old when Tupac passed, and I still felt the impact of that death. But this one right here, I felt like I really lost a brother. I didn't want to go on the internet. Like I really felt like this was somebody I was hanging with every day, just because everything he stood for was to push the culture forward. It was so selfless. The music he was making, if you listen to the message, the things he was doing in his community, even when you talk to him one-on-one, the advice and jewels he would give you as a person, if it felt like you just lost a brother, and it's like...
It's the whole thing was to inspire.
And
The pictures. He just took those beautiful pictures with his fiancee, Lauren.
Yes.
You know, and those were just,
Repping
when I
LA.
saw those pictures, I mean, beautiful.
I think she's referring to the GQ photos.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay, yeah, the GQ. Beautiful. And I just thought about her, you know, just a new mom. You know, she just posted a picture of she and her son and, you know, him making a funny comment and
Well, I had recently saw both of them at the Rock Nation brunch, and both of them had matching maroon outfits on. And I remember from a distance looking at both of them and saying, one, they look so good together.
wow.
Two, you could tell they're soulmates. You could tell they belong. Like, there's this whole thing where I said, well, I don't believe I have a soulmate out there. I'm going to be single forever. But when two people are on this earth somewhere and find a way to find each other.
Yeah.
So when I got up on them, Nipsey was talking to somebody else, and I was talking to Lauren, and I said, man, you got you a good one. You know, I really like y'all together. And she said, yeah, that's my partner. So I immediately
loved
felt
him.
for her, and it was good to see the outpouring of support for her.
His career, man, looking at it like 33 years old, really at the...
Peak.
It's not even at the peak. He was right there just finally getting accepted. Grammy nominations, GQ's covering, Forbes interviews. Like, he was just opening up his future. Like, he put so much work in. I remember being in Philly. You know, I'm not from the West Coast, knowing Nipsey 10 years ago. And just watching how far he came, like, wow, it's not a surprise to see Nipsey doing a Forbes interview. It's like, oh, yeah, you know, like he was just opening those doors to really impact the culture the way he wanted to. And it's just...
Yeah, hip hop is something, you know, to find yourself in a place where music is the main attraction and to find yourself, because so many people find themselves famous and then gone. But to find yourself as a young black man in South Central Los Angeles, the gang culture of the world, and to find a way out of it. I mean, to have a relationships with the Los Angeles Police Department, to have scheduled a meeting the day after your death to talk about gang ties and creating a relationship with the police and the community. I mean, it was so big. A lot of people, first off, don't have the balls to do it. There's a lot of artists who have taken from the community who never show back up into the community. And like you said, there's probably a reason why. And there's a fear that goes along with that. But when I'm saying, when you have accepted the responsibility, like this young man did, it makes it 10 times worse
I agree.
to see what has happened. And that's why the entire world is in an uproar, because those who maybe don't like hip hop or really don't associate themselves with that kind of music understood this young man's journey.
Well, I like I said, I had a call with Queen Latifah from London, and we were just talking about just life. Because I'm in the process of writing my first book. And in the book, it talks a lot about my childhood, my upbringing, how I was shot, how I seen my brother murdered. Wow. When my brother was murdered, I've told the story on the show before, but when my brother was killed, she was the person that, I never said this, but she was the person that stopped me from killing myself.
Wait.
Dana. Because I already had the relationship with her, but she had lost a brother, and she just has this, and you know her, she just has this thing about her where you feel like Dana gonna have a good word for you.
Wow.
And so we're now going through the process of like explaining in detail what that experience was like. But she was the person that I talked to. And so when I was explaining to her on the phone that, I need you to write the foreword of this book because you are going to be such a big part of it. And she said, well, I don't understand how I'm such a big part of it because I don't think I've ever told her that. So I think that, people don't understand, like, especially when it comes to hip hop, that, these stories that people are telling are real stories that people are living every day. And so it's not that we're glorifying something. We're actually putting a magnifying glass over what our families, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins have to go through every day in these communities. Yeah. So, it's just it's an unfortunate thing. But do you see a correlation between Tupac and Nipsey?
I see a correlation in so many ways. Left Eye. Just right at the peak of her finding herself and finding her truth. Biggie. Just watching him from the museum. I was at the museum that night and just, having a conversation with him and saying, I want to work with you. I want to work with you. I've seen him in the living room with him and Pac, and then Tupac, somebody who I thought had 9 lives, I'm a California girl, I didn't come to Hollywood to find fame. I was born and raised here and always dreaded having a young black son here.
Mm. Did you ever have children?
I do. I have 2 beautiful girls, and I'm gonna be a grandma.
Hey,
really?
Congrats.
Yo, a grandmother?
I know. I told her she's too fast for her britches.
So how did you? So as a mother, out here in these streets and famous, how did you raise them to exist in this world that we live in?
Well, I had great support, first of all, and they watched me. I mean, it was real when it was real. It was, and they traveled with me, and I've experienced my whole journey with my children. Tiffany's 24, almost 25. Sanai is 15, and Sanai's got a chance to reintroduce herself. I got a chance to do it over with her. So, it's been a journey,
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to ask you, Jason. What do you feel needs to change in the community with gun violence? Because we know your story, your backstory with your brother, and you witnessed.
I don't know the story.
I mean, my brother's story is a very personal one because people, they know me and they know Hollywood Unlocked, but with Nipsey, I think the reason why that death resonated with me is because just in even hearing you talk about the tribute, right? I've shared on the show, my brother's passing very generally, but I was a foster kid. I grew up in a foster home. I grew up in group homes and foster homes.
Wow.
And so when you talk about trees, we didn't have branches around us as a kid. I remember walking the streets at 7 years old with a key to my apartment. My mother was a prostitute and a drug addict, but my brother, Rodney, he was more of a father figure than my own father was.
Wow.
So I told you I met Dana at 15. I met Dana at 15 years old. We ended up becoming friendly. I would come down here to live in Single and meet her. And when I saw her out here, let me back up. Before that, I met Dana. 3 days later, I got shot in a drive-by. This is a true story. I get shot in a drive-by. I'm at a car wash at 15 years old. I get shot. And Dana had said, if it's meant to be, you'll find me. So I was in the hospital and I had time to call 411 and find out where Queen Latifah from Living Single was. Mm-hmm. So I called 411, I called Fox, and I said, this is Queen Latifah's cousin. I was just shot and I need to reach her. And so I didn't know the difference between a studio or a network. So they transferred me over to Warner. They gave me Warner Brothers' phone number. So I called over there and I said, this is Queen Latifah's cousin, just got shot. They moved the phone around. Long story short, I ended up getting to Dana.
Wow.
And so she was just surprised at how I'd even did this. I guess that was stalking back in the day. I don't know. But I got her on the phone and I said, you told me you would give me your number. So she gave me her Sky Pager number. And then she invited me to LA. But when I had come to LA, I had just seen like black people working, just on set. And I met MC Lyte. And I'm like, oh, well, this is like, people aren't selling drugs. People aren't killing each other. Like, this is black excellence. I was only 15, 16 and had been coming for a while. Now back home, I would leave here and go back home to a really...
And where's home?
Stockton, California.
Okay.
Really gun-riddled community, a lot of violence, drugs, prostitution. And so I'd gone back to that. So I'd lived in this weird world where I would escape to just come down and be around her and be around Burbank or LA to see the escape of where I came from. So at 19, I had built up the courage that, college really wasn't working out for me. I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to go work for Dana or somebody. I'm going to go work for Queen Latifah. I'm going to do something. And so I have a going away party. Invite my brothers, my cousins, all my friends. And this girl got into a fight with another girl over a jacket, and she's pulled out a gun and shot in the club. So at the time, I had walked up to my brother. My brother had come. So my brother, he was in the streets pretty heavy. So I walked up to him and I just said, take
your time, Jason.
So, so I walked up to him and I said, I love you. Now, I had never told my brother that. Men just don't say I love you. My father had never said that to me.
Right.
So I just said, I love you. And, he laughed. So I walked away and literally walked probably 6 steps and the gun went off. So I run out and I'm in a bowling alley. So I run out and I'm waiting for him to come out. My brother was 6'5", 230 pounds. He was very well respected in the streets. So he's either in there making sure somebody's cool or he just is, I don't know. So he never came out. So the girl who shot the gun ended up going outside and shooting outside. So everybody started running back in with guns. So here I am, 19 years old, in the middle of this bowling alley. There's gunshots. So I actually run down the bowling alley lane and I jump over. I go through the back and I jump over the fence. As I'm coming over the fence, this lady is like, are you Rodney's brother? I said, yeah. And she said, oh, your brother just got hit. And I said, well, what do you mean? And so she said, it just doesn't look good. So I went back inside. And so when I got there, it was like really like slow motion, like out of your body kind of experience where I seen somebody laying on the ground, but I didn't know it was him at the time. So when I got up on him, he was laying there with a hole in his head. And at that moment, it still wasn't really real to me because this is just like it didn't seem real with Nipsey from a distance because of who he was in my mind. This would have never happened to my brother, And so he, we ended up going to the hospital. So when I got to the hospital, I told them, I need to see my brother. So they let me go in the back and see him, and he was dead. So that was my brother. And at the time, he had a 2-week-old baby. Her name is Maite. And till this day, I still haven't sat down and talked to her because, and it's crazy, when death happens, it's really weird.
You haven't talked to her?
We've had a conversation online.
Wow.
Through Facebook.
And why do you feel like you haven't talked to her? If you don't mind me asking.
Because she was 2 weeks old when he died. So she doesn't know him. And she wasn't raised to know him. And because she doesn't know him, it would be hard for me to sit there and talk to her without her acknowledging him. Because he was very proud of being a father, And so it's something that I have to deal with because especially in writing this book, and then describing in the book the details of, him getting shot and, just what it looked like and all of that, which was very descriptive. I don't want to get into, but it was a lot. And yeah.
Our stories matter.
I don't think that, but the thing that makes it difficult is that I don't think I've loved anybody more than him.
Wow.
So there's times where I'll be hanging out with, Floyd Mayweather and I'll be like, you would have liked my brother.
Wow.
Or he'd have been like, how the fuck you become friends with Floyd Mayweather?
I know, right?
Because the innocence of a kid is robbed every day. And you really don't know what's going to shape them. This death has shaped everything about me, how my personality, my relationships, how I don't trust. If I feel like something's going to be temporary, I'm out.
Well, we all have been passionate and we've all found our purpose. So we just need to make it all our power and push forward. We do. I think we're all successful. Hearing your story reminds me of this play I'm doing, Billy the Play. And, a lot of that stuff, you talked about your family life, the prostitution of your family. This movie, this play, I would love for you to come, and I'd like to invite you all out to come see the
Love to
play.
go.
For
It's
sure.
called Billy, the play, and it takes place. A girl from Compton. Her name is Billy, not Billie Jean, but Billy King, and same kind of story. Dad was a pimp, mom was a prostitute, on drugs, family violence, and she succeeded. And the play is going to take place. I'm actually in it. We have some star characters, but I think it would be great if you come out.
No, for sure. I would
Please,
love
I'd
to be a
love
part
to
of it.
invite you
please,
all.
yeah.
And I want to invite you all out to the School of Hip Hop.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yes, because, star power means a lot in our community.
Absolutely.
And we are all leaders, and leadership is lacking.
Yeah, for sure.
So come on
I
down.
would love
Come
to
on
come too.
over to my place.
Teach
Love
a
the
DJ class for the kids,
Yeah.
all about
All right,
the
I'm gonna hold
youth.
you
Why
to
not?
it.
I'm
Hey,
there.
I told
All right,
you I
come
already
on.
want to learn the DJing, so I'm
Come
be
on.
in the
Wait,
class.
okay, so what are you going to teach?
Well, I sing. I have a degree in radiation science
Okay.
as well. So you didn't know I have a degree in
on,
radiation
queen.
science? Okay. Oh, hold on. Wait.
It's wrong hand.
Hilarious.
We couldn't get it.
I know, right?
But
right.
yeah,
And
so maybe science or something, or something with education.
I'd love it.
I mean, I
Yeah.
had a youth conference once where we facilitated a conversation with the kids, and actually a panel called Through Their Eyes, where we let them talk about how they see their community. Because I will say, when my brother died at 19, even though I was grown, I guess, I still was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And for some, when somebody dies of cancer or not a heart attack, but a cancer or something, for the most part,
Yeah.
you have some time to prepare.
Yeah.
Kids in our community see this stuff all the time. You know,
Right.
there are kids right now who are probably struggling understanding, how did Nipsey get killed? Why? What? Because of the impact he had on them. And I know that as a person at 19, I didn't have those answers. I had nobody giving me those
Exactly.
answers or giving me a place to really process what I
Yeah.
was experiencing. So, I mean, whatever I could do to help, I would love to.
I'd love that, because you are so right. We become numb, and and really, death becomes like a void to us. I know I lost so many people coming out of my community, but also I'd like for you to come. I know this internet sensation is really buzzing, and I know that you just did an award show late, for all of the successful, what do you call them? They call them, what's the word they use
social
for?
impact.
Yes,
yeah.
what
We
they
have
call
a
us?
brunch coming up in a BET weekend.
Oh,
The
okay.
social impact brunch.
Okay,
yeah.
so kids are doing their own YouTube channels now.
Yeah.
My daughter Sinai has her own. She's pranked me millions of times. Now I just don't even pay her any attention. I'm like, girl, please turn the camera off wherever it is and get out my face. But kids are doing it, and they're becoming very successful at it. So maybe we can do something like that with the kids
For
of the
sure.
school.
Absolutely.
And get them into this new era of production,
Yeah.
engineering, behind the scenes, mic booms, cameras.
Well, I've always said, if kids just had a light at the end of the tunnel,
Yeah.
they'll go towards it. But you got to
Right.
give them that light, and
not-
And
the arts
mentoring.
are very inspiring for people who have aspirations.
And love.
Yeah,
Because I see a lot of people
Absolutely.
try a lot of things, and they open up these programs and they start these programs, but you can get them in, but can you keep them?
Right.
And what keeps them there is love. Kids come back home. I went to Jamaica, real quick, just say, I went to Jamaica and I asked the guy, I said, why are the goats tied up? And he said, well, the goats that are tied up are the goats that don't come home. Right. They don't mind their owner. They run wild.
wow.
So, I mean,
Well, tie your goats up.
I'd be a tied up goat. I just want to let you know.
Well, listen. So what's next? What's next?
I know we have to just, figure out a way to really honor him. And I'm not exactly sure what that is. I mean, I would love to invite, more people out to support the School of Hip Hop, of course. But that's up, I think that's a line of discussion that we should have. Like, what's next?
I think when you look at the legacy of Nipsey Hussle, it was always about community first. He cared about his community. I feel like if we all step up and do something for our community, that's the best way to honor somebody's legacy. So I know I'm going to take a stand.
Together.
Yeah.
Maybe we should
good.
put something together.
I'm down. I would love to, because I think that for kids who are processing Nipsey Hussle's death, they also have a cousin, an uncle, a brother, or a friend who has a cousin, uncle, brother who has had the same experience.
Maybe we can get the kids to write something, or
Maybe, like a writer's
What are you
workshop
thinking?
for the kids.
You know what's so
a writer's
crazy? is
workshop?
What's interesting just about
Yeah.
this
This is dope.
about this opportunity is, when I did this back home, I did this panel. There was a kid on there that was a fourth grader. They had asked me to speak at a school. So when I went to the school, it was all these fourth graders, and they were like, "You met Beyonce?" You know, they were asking crazy questions. But one kid, he raised his hand. This is a fourth grader, and he says, "Have you ever been shot?"
Wow.
And I said, "Huh?" I mean, it literally took me back because this was a group of fourth graders. And I said, yeah, I've been shot. And he goes, and all the kids were like, really? And he's like, really? And I said, yeah. I said, why you asked? He said, oh, my brother's a baby. He got shot. His brother who was 1 year old who had been shot. So I invited this fourth grader to speak on the panel. So it was a fourth grader all the way through to an 18-year-old. Wow. And the perspective of each kid was just so crazy. So I would love to.
I think that'll be good, right?
It'd be amazing.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. We need to hear from the community. We got to hear from the youth. That's what we do it for. That's our future. So we need to know what they're going through in real time.
And we need to hear from more hip hop legends in the game who not only just created the game and shaped the game, but transformed the game. So I'm glad that we were able to get together and talk. Yeah. And also to just say thank you, and I appreciate everything you've done for music and hip hop and the community, because I feel like we don't give each other enough of our flowers while we're here. And you deserve more than one bouquet.
Yeah, she deserves 3.
Thank
we should
you.
have had flowers waiting for her.
Well, you know I'll send some flowers.
I know, that's what I'm saying. We should have had flowers
I'll
waiting
send
for
some
her.
flowers. She gonna get them flowers tomorrow.
Right.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you.
always good to see you.
You too,
waiting
Mama.
on you to come in, DJ.
Of course, and now we're connected.
And of course.
Yeah.
You're great. We loved having you, Yo-Yo.
Thank you so
You
much.
got to come back again.
I know.
Anytime.
No, I'm
Okay.
going to wait for you guys to come to the School of Hip Hop.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to create something in the name of Nipsey. We're going to bring
Let's do
together
it.
all of our star
Yes.
power.
Let's do it.
Yeah?
Let's do it.
We agreeing?
I'm in. Anything you need, I'm there.
100%.
Thank you so much.
All right, y'all.
Thank you for coming.
Peace and love.
We out.
We out.
Thank you so much.